allowed to call someone my soulmate when we only dated for a month? First of all, there are 3 people I feel like shouldn't maybe watch this story. One is this guy. If you realize this video is about you, like, click off if you want to, because I'm gonna try to be honest and unfiltered. And if you just want to, you know, spoil your own conception of what happened, don't watch this. Number 2 are my mom and stepdad. I love you guys, but I feel like unless you want to hear some soft mentions about adult activities, maybe don't watch it. Also, if you're a child, please do not watch this video. So when I was a freshman, at the time, me and my roommate had this guy who was my friend that we both secretly idolized and loved. This guy is like nerdy, but like sweet. He was really into D&D, loved cats, he is bi, so like it just made him not as toxically masculine as so many of the other guys we knew. Likes to make like kind of funny, corny jokes. Just oddball, but like nice kind of guy. I remember just making all these jokes like, oh my god, imagine if I could date him. He was also a redhead, and my roommate would be like, oh my god, Maria, you love redheads. And I'd be like, no, I don't. What are you even talking about? Like, what? At the time, I had just gotten out of something that was just, it ended really awkwardly. I remember going to bed one night being like, what if I could date a guy like my friend? I didn't want to date my friend, but I wanted to date someone who would treat me in the way that I thought my friend would. And the reason why is because my friend, I always saw him as like close to who my soulmate would be. Thought over all of these things I might want and like went to bed. I wasn't trying to manifest anything, but I just thought about it really hard, went to bed. The next day, I get like 2 or 3 matches, and one of the matches is this guy who has D&D in his profile. I'm also looking through his profile. He's like 6'2", which is like my height. I'm not 6'2", but I like guys who are 6 foot and above. At the time, I was also really into Myers-Briggs, which is like a personality test. He had started a conversation based on Myers-Briggs, which was like, for me, a green flag, because that showed me that you're interested in me. And people who know about their Myers-Briggs often are interested in the same sorts of things that I'm interested in. So we talk about that. And not only does he know his Myers-Briggs is like the one that's like perfectly compatible with mine. So immediately we're talking about that, and I'm seeing that there are a lot of boxes he's ticking. He's into tech, which is like, I'm into guys who are into tech. We're having just a genuine conversation and connecting on a really good level. So I was like, oh my god, this is kind of crazy. And I didn't tell anyone about it, because I was just like, what if I ruin this? So we're talking off and on, and then he asked for my number. And then while we're texting, he's like, would you want to call? Like a phone call. And something about that struck me as very genuine. I will say that I started to learn where he lived. I go to school in New York, and he lived in a part of Jersey that I didn't know this at the time, but it's about 2.5 hours to 3 hours away by train. I didn't know how far he was at that time, so I was like, well, maybe this can work. So we call, and I remember the call was just really sweet. He was just listening to me as I talked about my food, and intimate. I remember the conversation was kind of slower paced. He kind of talks like this mellow, really laid back way, but in a way that was still very interested, and I could tell there's like a depth to him that I was really fascinated in getting to know more about him. We call a couple more times, but then I was just like, I want to do a FaceTime call. I hate phone calls. Why do we still phone call in 2022? Because we have FaceTime. So I was like, can we call? And he was actually, yeah, I actually prefer that. And there were just so many things that would be like that. I'd be like, can we do this or can we do that? And he'd be like, yeah, that's actually my preference. We set up a Skype call, I think, or a Zoom call, because he didn't have an iPhone. And I remember the call, again, being very intimate, being very sweet. You know, he's just showing me like different paintings and stuff in his room, and I'm telling him about my life. He seemed kind of nerdy and shy. And I remember I can be very bubbly and talkative if I feel like I need to be. And I kind of would feel like I needed to be on the conversation because I wanted to get to know him. And at the same time, if I wasn't speaking, there would be pauses or lulls in the conversation. I could tell it wasn't because he wasn't an interesting person, because I felt like I kind of had to do that, but I didn't mind it at the time. You know, he was really liberal and really passionate about like climate change. We watched a lot of the same shows. We eventually decide to meet up in person. Now, I will say that I would just strongly advise anyone who is getting to know someone over the internet, even on dating apps, don't call them. Don't call them unless you're just trying to get to know them for a couple of times. Don't like go on like long weeks and weeks of calling, because you're going to feel like you are building an intimacy with this person before you meet this person in real life. And that's kind of what I felt like I had. I felt like we had talked about so many things. I felt like I knew him, but those weren't dates, and I had never met him in person. And I think you can kind of feel like you're meeting someone, you're really getting to know them, but you're only knowing them from a screen. Not to brag on people who are in long distance relationships or who met their partners over the internet or, you know, whatever. Definitely try to meet them in person as soon as possible. But we do plan to meet each other in person. He said that he could come over here because he was really comfortable traveling here because he had an internship in like Times Square area, Midtown area. So he was comfortable traveling to New York even though he didn't live there. So I was like, yeah, that's fine. So when we meet up, it was really cute. We met each other at Penn Station, and from there we walked around. He showed me like the places he had visited when he interned there, and I was just learning more about him. It was a little bit overwhelming because you're meeting someone in real life and you're trying to match their online presence to their in-person presence. But I mean, he seemed really consistent. He seemed like a good guy. He had also gotten a haircut, which I know this is like a small thing, but when guys get haircuts, sometimes they don't look right. And I remember just like not liking his haircut. All my life I'd been told that if you like someone, they will grow on you. So I was like, we just need more time for him to grow on me because he's matching all of these things that I like. I felt like I could trust him right away. He took me to like a 99 pizza store and he was like, you know, let me buy you a pizza. And I was like, wow, you're buying me 99 cents worth of pizza. Thank you. Sat down, we ate, it was nice. At one point, a homeless guy came up to us and was like, oh my God, a black girl with a white guy, was ragging on it, was not happy about it, whatever. But one thing I noticed seeing him in real life was that he was like a redhead. He had like red highlights in his hair. It was just stuff like that that was just, it would just be like, whoa. I remember when he told me like on the second call that he's like, you know, I'm bi. And I was like, wait, you're bi? And he's like, yeah. And I'd be like, oh my God. The first time hanging out was really fun. We finish in Penn Station, we sit, we kiss. The first kiss that we had was really, really good. He like, you know, grabbed my back and like pulled me in and like we kissed for a long time in a train station, and it was just a really wholesome New York moment. I didn't see him and I didn't think like, oh my God, I just want to rip your clothes off right now. But I mean, I felt that he was like, I felt like his personality was great. And I was like, well, maybe I'm nervous on the first time meeting you. So I didn't stress about it too much. He went back to New Jersey, I went back home, and we went to like talking, calling like every other day. He worked and he went to school, so he was often busy, so he couldn't call every night, and neither could I because freshman year was so hectic for me. You know, we still tried to keep in contact with each other, but that part was definitely really hard because you feel like you're spending all this time with someone, but it's all online. Super early on in the relationship. There's this Jasmine Sullivan lyric from Hotels, which is like, I was always in his world and he was never in mine. It was like that, except for I wasn't in his world and he wasn't in mine, and we tried to build a world together, but the world we were building together was just online. Where we really bonded and got to know each other was over the phone. But we're still trying to build this bond, and you know, he suggests like I come up to New Jersey. I decided to go to New Jersey by myself. I was terrified. New Jersey Transit makes no sense. I got lost so many times. I didn't buy the ticket at the right point. I almost got kicked off the train. I almost missed the train. The conductor had to help me. It was a whole mess. When I got there, like, he was chilling, cool, happy. I was so anxious and stressed, and I didn't deal with it as well, so I feel like I was just kind of like shut down and dead. We're doing all these things. We're talking. We're getting Chinese food. You know, he's showing me these places that he likes and loves because we're in New Jersey, so it's like his hometown, but I'm just like in a daze. Even I was still in the daze, and even when he like pulled me up, we were into this conservation park, and he like pulled me in for a kiss, and like, you know, I just didn't feel like kissing in front of everybody. I didn't really feel like I knew him enough to like be kissing on him like that, but I felt like I should because we've been spending so much time together. And that whole day we were finding out even more things that we knew about each other, that we liked about each other. He did theater growing up. I did theater growing up. He was homeschooled growing up at times. I was homeschooled growing up at times. He doesn't like coffee. I don't like coffee. He loves cats. I love cats. Like, just like so many like small things along with the big things that just like really bonded us. And it was just like, wow, like, you know, we were kind of meant to meet each other. The best way I can describe us at that time and how we interacted was like, if you've seen Love is Blind, Lauren and Cameron. Take me. The difference between me and Lauren is the same difference between him and Cameron, like literally so much. And there are so many similarities that like Lauren and Cameron find out about each other in the show. That's how me and him felt. Like, for example, Lauren and Cameron was a firefighter who moved into tech. This guy, I helped him that day get a firefighter job. I'm really into social media and branding. So is Lauren. So even the Myers-Briggs compatibility differences were the same. I remember always at the same time being so worried about what he would think about me and if I could keep him and if I was worthy enough for him, and not wanting to look at whether or not I thought he was right for me, because I felt like he was right for me. On all these dates, he would treat me really well. Like, he would try to pay for most of the stuff. When I went up to Jersey, he planned out so many different things we could do and go see and explore, and that to me was really cool. And that meant so much because I just never had a guy put that much thought into what I would like, what I would want to do, into taking care of me. It's almost time for me to go home, but I can tell he wants to bring something up. I can tell that, you know, I think he wants to move this forward. This is our second date in person, but at the same time, we've been talking for 2 weeks, and I'm not really talking to anyone else. He's not really talking to anyone else. We're talking about what we want in a relationship. Like, he was like, you know, I came on the apps to look for a long-term relationship. That's what I want. And I was like, well, I was just kind of on there for casual dating, so I don't really know. No one really tells you what casual dating means. My mom has always encouraged me to casually date, right? But does casually dating mean dating multiple different people and keeping it open? Does casual dating mean me and you are dating casually, but we're not going to move it into a label? I don't even know if I knew exactly what I wanted. I knew I wanted something chill and relaxed because that's what I'd been told I should, you know, search for. You're young, you're in college, but I didn't know how I wanted someone to be with me. And I didn't know how that even related when it came to long distance, because essentially we were long distance. Like, it was a trek to get up there. So we're sitting in his car and he's like, you know, would you want to be exclusive? And I was like, I didn't really know. I think I didn't want to, but I didn't really know. So I was like, yeah, sure. And I had some hesitation in my voice, and he was like, you know, are you sure? You know, but I felt like I should. And the second I said yes, he was really happy about it. We drove around, we left. I felt dread. And I just remember feeling super trapped. So I texted him and I was like, hey, I'm really enjoying our time together, but I was like, I have to be honest with you. The distance is an issue for me and I don't know what I should do so that way things don't go too fast. And he was like, okay, is it a deal breaker? And I was like, no. And I was being honest, it wasn't a deal breaker for me. 2 weeks was not a long time, but for me, being in college, this being my first serious thing in a while, seeing my friends become boyfriend and girlfriend with guys a week or so into meeting, I felt like this is the thing that I should do. So the next thing is he is gonna come down to New York to meet me. I mean, it's nice. We walk around, I show him all my favorite spots, we get pizza. We had planned to get a hotel because it was Valentine's Day, and so we were gonna get a hotel. It was gonna be really sweet, it was gonna be really cute, and then he made it clear that he wanted to, like, you know, I was at the time in my sexual liberation phase, okay? So we go to the first hotel that we booked. Apparently planning is not either of our strong suits in this situation, because tell me why we had booked it for the wrong day. He immediately got really stressed. You could tell he was like, because we were out of like $150. We ended up going to a different place, and that was also really tiring because we had to take the subway all the way back, walk another 20 minutes, get into this hotel. So we get to the hotel and, you know, we start making out, kissing, things go like further and further, and my body was just shut down. It was just shut down. Nothing was working. Basically just, it wouldn't work. I couldn't perform. And I remember just feeling frustrated with myself, and he was getting frustrated too. He was like, you know, what's going on? Like, is it because of me? Am I doing something wrong? I mean, we were moving a little bit fast. So not knowing that at the time, that is also something, because, you know, women need 20-30 minutes sometimes, and it was going really fast, but at the same time I didn't even know what wasn't working, so I didn't even know what to ask for. So I was just like, and I started to like kind of panic a little bit. So at some point he was really nice about it, but he was like, you know, is it just that like you don't know your own anatomy? And I'm like, okay, back off, sir. when I'm by myself, everything works well. Okay, so I don't think it's about me, but I didn't say that. And so we eventually just decided to stop, and it was just really disappointed and sad. We spent all this money, and you know, it was Valentine's Day and it's someone I really cared about. I just become really withdrawn, and he was like, do you want to talk about it? And I was like, yeah. And so I just told him, and I felt scared telling him. I didn't know how to tell someone something like this, but you know, he's like, I understand, and there's no pressure. And he was just really sweet, and he was like, you know, I know you're upset, and I know you love personality tests, so do you want to do a personality test with me? And I was like, yeah, I would love to do a personality test with you, thank you. And it was just a really sweet moment, and in that moment I could tell not only did he understand me, but he wanted to make me happy. That's why I say that in many ways I feel like he was my soulmate, because out of the many guys I've met and spent time with, like, I don't think a single one has known how I feel and who I am in those really small, sad moments. And after that, we eventually left, and then it was kind of awkward the next morning, but only because it was just really hot and uncomfortable in that hotel, and we kind of had a long day, and it was just a long time of spending. You're spending a whole 24 hours with someone that you see once a week. We planned for me to come up. He gave me a better route to go, and he was like, you know, let's go to my parents' house. You just have to meet my parents, and then we can hang out at my house instead of driving around the whole time. Because it was also during COVID, so there wasn't like things to do, and if there were things to do, it was like expensive. So I was like, because keep in mind, this would have been the 4th time of us hanging out, and I'm meeting his parents. Tell me, is that not a lot of pressure? Is that not moving fast? My friends would be like, yeah, girl, that's kind of moving really fast. And I was like, right? I was just like, I don't know how I feel about this. And I said that, and he was like, oh, well, you know, it's not a big deal. It's really not a big deal. Like, it's just my parents. But I mean, if it does bother you, like, we don't have to do it. And I was like, I just didn't want to be that one. So I was like, yeah, sure, I'll meet your parents. Now, one of the things he had told me was that he had had a troubled relationship with his mom. That's one of the things we bonded over. I have a troubled relationship with my mom. He has a troubled relationship with his mom. So I was like, you know what? I got this. Okay, I'm gonna win this mom over. She's gonna love me. So that was kind of my mindset going into this, because his parents were really conservative. They were like Trump supporters. They had like Ben Carson and like Richard Nixon photos and posters and books all around their house. They had like a American flag. It was one of them houses, girl. And he was really liberal, but his parents weren't. But honestly, it was fine. They were really nice, really sweet. You know, his mom was really interested in getting to know me. They were just moments of hanging out at his house that just were awkward. For example, we try to like be like making out on his couch. Like, we'd have to stop if we thought his parents were around, because the way the door worked, it was like we couldn't close the door to the basement itself, only to the top of the stairs. So we would have to just like stop, and like I would be kind of paranoid, and he would be kind of seemed annoyed sometimes if I was too paranoid about it. Or we would be like watching TV, and I like to talk and ask questions, and he just seemed annoyed. At the same time, there were things that I felt like I was being awkward on. Like, we would kiss, and I would be into it physically because I like being touched, but I don't know if I was like craving him. So yeah, and my friend, she would always ask, are you into him or are you just into being physical? And I was like, I'm into him. But I felt like I wasn't as much as I said I was, and it was starting to show. At a certain point, we went up, we had dinner with his parents, and I was like talking with his mom, and I was really trying to be friendly, ask her questions, and maybe I overdid it, but like me and her kind of strike up this really fun conversation about our favorite movies, and he's just kind of like, Mom, like he's just really annoyed, and he just kind of gets sort of quiet and withdrawn, and it's like, I feel like we just didn't know each other enough for me to be meeting his mom and for us to know how we interacted in these different situations. So after that moment, I remember him kind of just being withdrawn. I planned to stay like an extra few hours because there was 2 trains leaving, one leaving in an hour, one leaving in like a couple of hours. And I was like, I can take that later train. He's like, oh, well, actually, like I have homework. And I was like, oh, okay.
That's fine. I don't care about that. You have homework? Great!
It was just a complete 180 because he was typically the one wanting to spend time with me, wanting to get along with me, wanting to get to know me. And he just kind of seemed like he pulled away, but he's an introvert, I'm an introvert. So I was just like, maybe it's one of those things. So I was just like, it's fine. So we leave, and I remember a couple more moments. I remember him showing me a little video in the car, and like he felt like it was super funny, and like he was like laughing at it, and he showed it to me. And I just remember being like, but like I didn't really think it was that funny. But I was just, I saw why he thought it was funny, but I just don't think I got it the same way that he did. And then I remember another moment where when I was finally leaving the car, like I kind of just looked at him, and I don't know if I was supposed to hug him or kiss him, but I just felt really overwhelmed by the situation. So I just kind of like left. And I'm just giving you guys all these different moments because it's like, I can't really tell you exactly what happened that last day because I also had fun. I also had really interesting conversations. I was in pretty good spirits, and I couldn't tell if something switched because I knew he was attracted to me. I knew we had a lot in common, but I went home and I just had this really, you know, creaky feeling, I guess is the best way to describe it. The weeks leading before this, I had been like, you know, I feel like I want to ask him to not be exclusive anymore. I feel kind of trapped, but I didn't. And my mom had been like, you know, Marie, you should, if you feel this way about someone, you should break up with them. Because if they break up with you, it's going to hurt your feelings and you're going to begin to doubt yourself. I just couldn't let him go. As much as I felt like I should, I couldn't because I didn't know if I really wanted to. So I went home and I was really conflicted. But the next day, I texted him some memes because I just wanted to break the ice. Well, just scratch that day. It was a weird fluke and we'll just get to know each other again. And there was no response that whole day. And I was like, oh my God, like, did I do something? Did I say something weird? But there was just no response. And that was the whole Monday after we'd hung out, there was no response. And I remember talking to my therapist on Tuesday being like, I don't know what's wrong with me. Like, I feel like I like this guy a lot. I feel like I want to be with him, but I don't really know if I want to be with him. She's like, it sounds like you just don't like him. And I was like, no, I do like him. I do really, really, really like him. He's doing something wrong. And she was like, it sounds like, you know, you liked him at first and you really got along and now you're not. And it's okay to change your mind. And that's one of the most, you know, impactful things I remember her saying. It's like, it's okay for you to change your mind. And she was like, you know, I think you just need to let him go. And we did like a little bit of affirmations and the meditation, and I just, the same way I had brought him in, I just let him go. I just came to peace with the idea of him not being in my life. And then the next day, you know, all that Tuesday, he didn't talk to me. On the next Wednesday, that following day, he was like, you know, can we talk? And I was like, yeah. And I knew it was gonna be the breakup talk. I didn't know why he wanted to break up with me, but I knew that's what he was saying. And I felt relieved that he was saying it instead of me. And so on the call, you know, it was kind of nice, like, hey, how are you doing? Like, and then he's just like, you know, I'm kind of busy with homework right now, with school, and, you know, I'm really enjoying spending time with you, but I think we should be better off as friends. And I can't remember if he said that we're looking for different things, but regardless, that's what I inferred. I think he knew that I was thinking about ending things. I think he could tell. And I think that's why it ultimately, like, he called it and he said it. And I was like, okay, yeah. And I remember that call, I never said any of the things I'd been thinking. Any of the things I'd been thinking about, you know, whether or not I was into him. I kind of just left it on him to be like, yeah, like, you wanted this to end and I'm fine with that. We talked another time after that. He updated me on the fact that he got the job, the firefighter position that I was really into, and that was it. And I think the hardest part was that my mom was right. Like, the 3 days after, I was devastated. And it wasn't the same way I'd been heartbroken when my ex broke up with me. It was a much different kind of thing where I was like saying to myself, did I do the wrong thing by letting this person go? Am I dumb? Am I stupid? He's treated me the best ever. He's completely changed my standards for how a guy should treat me. He was exactly what I asked for. And I considered literally for days and days and days after, and weeks and weeks and weeks after, and even sometimes now, like, just hitting him up and trying things again, because who I am now is such a different person than who I was then. But at the same time, my pride, girl, there is no way I will text someone who broke up with me. No way. And I also do think it ended for a reason. We only dated for a month. It was like a month exactly. And it was funny because my mom had been like, give him a month and then end it if it doesn't work. It was a month. But it's almost like a be careful what you wish for because you just might get it. But also at the same time, I'm so happy I met him because I know that whoever I'm with in the long term is going to have so many qualities and traits of what this guy brought into me and into my life. So if you guys like this video, thank you so much for watching. I will be posting more dating videos, dating experience videos. I have one up right now called NYU Matches Me with My Perfect Match, where I get matched based on a test that I take with someone who could be my potential future husband. So if you want to check that video, please do. If you guys have someone who is the one for you that got away, like, please let me know below so I don't feel so alone. Why do you think he decided to end it? I'm actually really curious on another person's perspective on this. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching and I will see you guys next time. Ciao.